Today I'm going to show you 10 new cologne fragrances that are worth looking into. Hey guys, I'm George, the nice medic gentleman, and it's time for your dose of some fragrance content. Today I'm going to show you 10 new cologne fragrances that are worth looking into. And I'm going to start today's video with two fragrances from the brand of Lattafa. The first one I talked about yesterday in a first impression video, or in my yesterday's video to be more exact. The video was actually shot a few days ago. And it's called Habik. Now this is a new fragrance from the brand of Lattafa, which I saw popping up online, information about this one popping up online about a month ago. And people immediately compared this one with a very nice original fragrance from the brand of Jean-Paul Gaultier, which is called Le Mole Essence de Parfum, which was a great fragrance, but unfortunately was discontinued. It's very hard to find nowadays, especially if you want a brand new, unsealed, unopened bottle. And it's also very expensive. I've seen some eBay listings of that one going for like $500. I think I even saw a screenshot of a listing that goes for $800, and that's a crazy amount of money. Yes, the original fragrance used to be very nice, but sure as hell it doesn't cost so much money even after its discontinuation. Now there are a few options. If you want Essence de Parfum clone, the first one comes from the brand of Fragrance World and it's called Porsche Omega. And now we have this new one which comes from the brand of Lattafa and it's called Habik. Now this is not an exact clone, this is more like an inspiration, at least so far from the few days that I've owned this one. This seems to smell pretty close to the original one from Jean-Paul Gaultier, but at the same time has its own differences. For example, this feels a lot warmer, a lot more spicy in the opening. Lacks a bit of the aromatic nature of the original fragrance, and then on the dry down this lacks some of the vanillic sweetness that you'll find in Essence de Parfum, but in general this is done in a similar style. It will get you somewhat close to the original fragrance, and also this carries pretty nice quality. So far from my testing, this also seemed to have a pretty strong, not strong, but pretty decent performance, lasting at least 7 hours on my skin from my early testing, and seems to project quite nicely, and all that for a price of around about $30. So that, especially the price compared to that discontinued original fragrance, seems to be an absolute bargain. So if you're looking for an Essence de Parfum clone, then Habik I think is a good candidate for that. The next one from Lattafa, I've covered in its own review video a while back. It's part of the niche Emirati line, so the highest possible quality of Lattafa fragrances, and it's called Classic Stone. It looks like this. It has this sort of a weird bottle design that, the bottle itself without the cap looks like a flask, and then the cap, when you put in the cap, this starts to look like a bug or something like that. And this is a very interesting fragrance that doesn't feel like an exact clone of anything, but will definitely bring you strong Parfum de Marly Altair vibes. It's done in a similar style, but this has less of the aromatic nature of Altair. This has less of the white florals of Altair. This feels overall this feels a lot darker in the opening, feels a little bit less sweet than the original fragrance, and has a leather note on the dry down, which makes things quite interesting, especially considering how many clones of Altair we've had in the past 6 months or so. And most of those clones, they tend to do things in one of two ways: either try to directly clone the original scent or make it a little bit fresher. Well, this goes into the opposite direction. This makes things darker, makes them less floral, makes them less aromatic, adds a leather note, makes it more masculine. I've said this before, but this feels like an exclusive flanker, or like an elixir flanker, an absolute flanker to the original fragrance. And I've been really digging Classic Stone from the brand of Lattafa. Really nice quality. Again, this is part of the highest end possible line of Lattafa fragrances. Strong performance and lasts for a very long time and projects nicely. The next two scents that I've included in today's video come from the brand of Arabiyat Prestige. The first one is called Kohel Opulence. Looks like this, and this one is a clone with a twist of a fragrance, a niche fragrance that for some reason very quickly became very popular with Middle Eastern brands, and that original fragrance is called Blue Talisman comes from the brand of Ex Nihilo. Now, I've always found the original fragrance to be a little bit too unisex, in fact, maybe even a little bit leaning to the feminine side. I know some people may disagree, but for me personally, that's how I feel about the original fragrance. It's always come across to me a bit too shower jelly, a bit too fruity, a bit too tropical in a way. And Arabiyat Prestige have done a take on that original scent without being an exact clone. This makes things a little bit different, and in my opinion makes things a little bit more interesting. It dials back a little bit of that, you know, shower jelly vibe that you'll find in the original, some of that fruity sweetness in the original. This is again a slightly darker take that has more ambers on the dry down, less fruity sweetness. The sort of a soapy or shower jelly vibe that I find in the original one is almost completely gone within Kohel Opulence, and there's a hint of a leather note as well in this one, which makes the scent profile more masculine compared to the original. And overall, that's why I've been really digging Kohel Opulence, to be honest, and today this has been my scent of the day for today. It's a very interesting take that offers the usual super high quality from Arabiyat Prestige, pressurized sprayer, and also very good performance. The other one from Arabiyat Prestige that I've included in today's video is called Kisat Al Naja Nedawi. It looks like this. Now, when you first look at the bottle, you may think that this is a scent that leans more on the feminine side, but in fact I find this one to be a perfectly unisex. When I got this fragrance, this was presented to me as being a Byredo clone, but to be honest, I find this one smelling closer to another very famous, very popular niche fragrance, which is called Maison Crivelli's Oud Maracuja. Now, this is not an exact clone of Oud Maracuja, but definitely brings me strong Oud Maracuja vibes, because this has a leather note, it has an agar oud note, it has some fruity sweetness, there's some florals like the rose note, but this feels a little bit different. Now, I've always found Oud Maracuja to be more about the combination of the leather, the agar oud, and some of that fruity sweetness. With this one, this concentrates more on the combination of the sweetness from the fruits with some ambers and the agar oud. There is still some leather, but it's not as strong as you'll find in Oud Maracuja. Also, I find the florals here, the rose note, stronger than the original fragrance. So this is slightly different while doing things in a very similar way. This smells very niche. It has again super nice quality and offers pretty beastly performance, just like the original fragrance and all the good clones of the original fragrance. This is very strong, lasts for a long time and projects quite nicely. And I find this one to be perfectly unisex as well. Okay, the next two come from the brand of Afnan, some of their recent releases. One of them is called Rare Reef. Now, this was released a few months ago. I couldn't get a bottle of this one before it got sold out, but some weeks ago I finally was able to snatch a bottle of this. This is a fragrance that's done in a very similar style to something like Pacific Chill from the brand of Louis Vuitton. So we're getting something fresh, something fruity, something a little bit minty, something refreshing that has quite a bit of muskiness on the dry down. A very laid back summertime fragrance that probably will pass as being a unisex, although I find it to be leaning a little bit to the masculine side in all honesty. It offers the usual high quality that you expect from the brand of Afnan, or at least I personally associate Afnan with high quality. It offers nice performance as well, lasts for a long time, projects nicely because of the nature of the scent and all that. And it's very fairly priced. I think I got this bottle for something like $35 or something like that, which is just a fraction of the price of the original fragrance. There are a few other good clones of Pacific Chill. This is probably the latest one that came out, and I like this one. Now, I'm not like super fond of the original fragrance, but Afnan have done a pretty good job in my opinion. This is a nice no-brainer, fresh, fruity daily driver type of scent, again, that has nice quality and good performance. The next one that I'm including in today's video that comes from Afnan is probably their latest release. It's part of the 9 line, and this one is called 9 PM Elixir. And I absolutely love this fragrance. For me, this is one of the best Middle Eastern fragrance releases in 2025 so far. Now, this is a fragrance that will strongly remind you of Jean-Paul Gaultier's Le Male Elixir and Le Male Elixir Absolu, sitting closer to Le Male Elixir Absolu. but at the same time, again, it does a bit of its own thing. This is a more spicy, a warmer version, especially in the opening. On the dry down, lacks a bit of the sweetness of the original fragrance, but this is absolutely fantastic. Initially, when I first got this one, when I tried it, that spiciness was a little bit too much for me initially, but with a bit of time this started to, the scent started to settle with a bit of maceration, maturation, or whatever you want to call it. That some of that spiciness in the opening started to go away. It's still a more spicy take on the original fragrance, but now it's a lot more it's a lot easier for me to wear, and this is a fragrance that also has brought me quite a few compliments. I was wearing this a few days ago over the weekend, last weekend, and a few of my friends were asking me what I'm wearing because I'm really smelling very nice. Very strong performance, lasts for a very long time, projects really nicely, and it's just a great release from Afnan. And again, I think this is one of the best releases of 2025 so far. The next one that I'm about to show you comes from the brand of Paris Corner, and it's one of the very latest fragrances that I've added to my collection in the past few days. That's why I haven't showed it so far in a video, I haven't talked about it so far, but for today I decided to include it in this video. It's called Reham Wild Mineral. It looks like this. I think this is a mini line of fragrances that has a few others, and this is an interesting scent that I was kind of curious to try and to explore just to see how it smells. Has a very decent atomizer. This is something that will probably remind you a lot of Valentino Uomo, Born in Roma, but this is like having a very heavy twist on it. Now, first of all, the first thing is that this is a lot sweeter. It has more fruity sweetness than what you'll find in the original fragrance from Valentino. This is one of the differences. The other difference is that this has an aquatic note, or I think the original the note breakdown listed on Fragrantica has a marine note listed. And this has a bit of woods on the dry down, a hint of spiciness as well, and overall has a bit of an aromaticness as well. There is definitely some lavender in here, which is not listed in the note breakdown. This is an interesting, sort of an easy to wear daily drive type of scent that has a bit of a youthful factor in my opinion, but this actually smells pretty pleasant. Again, this is not an exact clone of Born in Roma, but it's done in a similar style. You can think of Born in Roma with some more fruity sweetness and some aquaticness added to it, and basically it's a very nice fragrance that will probably give you some shower jelly vibes as well. As someone said on Fragrantica, this is a shower jelly type of scent in the best possible way. It's non-offensive, it smells modern, it smells non-offensive, it smells mass-pleasing. People will probably like the way you smell with this one and compliment you as well. I'm still testing the performance of this fragrance. So far seems to be pretty decent, and at some point I'm going to talk about it in its own dedicated video, but so far this seems to be pretty nice. The next one that I'm about to show you comes from the brand of Fragrance World, and it's called Tabac and Coke. And I kind of like this one a lot. Now this smells like the child between, like the love child between Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille and Mancera's Tonka Cola. Initially, when this came out, a lot of people compared it and said that this smells very close to a Tonka Cola, but to be honest, even from the very first time I sprayed this one, when I got it and I sprayed this one, for me this has always smelled closer to Tobacco Vanille. It's basically taking the scent profile of Tobacco Vanille, you know, the spices, the cinnamon, the vanillic sweetness, the strong tobacco note, but adding in that Coca-Cola vibes from Tonka Cola, which I've said this in my review, but the way that the Coca-Cola comes across in here, that Coca-Cola note is not like a fizzy drink, like carbonated drink. It smells more like if you make a juice that tastes like Coca-Cola. It has a hint of that sort of a liquid feel to it. It's a very nice creation, to be honest. I've been really digging Tabac and Coke from Fragrance World. Quality is nice, the performance is quite strong, lasts for a long time, projects really nicely. It's a great unisex fragrance for the cold season, and it's quite inexpensive. This costs around about $25 to $30 here in Europe at least. So if you like, if you like Tobacco Vanille, if you want something with a bit of a twist, a bit of an interesting twist, then Tabac and Coke is actually a very nice option. And I'm going to finish off today's video with two fragrances from the brand of French Avenue. The first one is a pretty new release, pretty brand new release from French Avenue, and it's called Thunder. It has this interesting looking cap. I really dig the way that the cap on this fragrance looks like an elephant head. It has nice detail and all that. And this is a very interesting fragrance. Now, I think the inspiration for this one is the omniscient Mr. Thompson from the brand of Penhaligon's, an original fragrance which unfortunately I have never tried, so I cannot tell you whether this smells close to that or not. But this will also remind you, if you have experience with those fragrances, like Givenchy Gentleman EDP, like Dior Homme Intense and Valentino Uomo Intense. So it's heavy on that lipsticky, powdery iris note. It's quite heavy on it, but it has more sweetness. There's some vanillic sweetness. There are some woods on the dry down. This has a bit of an aromatic nature. It also, for some reason, I don't know why, but this has a bit of a sort of a watery feel to it. The way that the powdery note comes across is not so like dry and dusty and floral as I find in Dior Homme Intense and Valentino Uomo Intense, for example, and Givenchy Gentleman EDP. This has a sort of an I don't know, like a watery vibe to it as well. Somehow this feels like smelling that note, but like it's a wet note. I don't know if that makes sense at all. I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's an interesting fragrance. Anything with a strong iris, powdery iris note in it, I'm a big fan. You can sign me up for that. And Thunder has that. You get again some additional sweetness, vanillic sweetness, tonka bean sweetness and powderness. You get some woods on the dry down. You get a bit of lavender in the opening, which helps with the diffusion of the whole scent. It's a nice fragrance overall that I've been digging quite a lot. It smells nice, it smells sophisticated, dressed up, a little bit mature, and seems to have pretty strong performance. From my testing so far, the projection isn't super strong, but the total longevity is actually quite good. And I'm going to finish off with the second French Avenue fragrance featured in today's video, which is called Zenith Blue. And this one, of course, is a clone of the most hated fragrance on Mother Earth, and that is Dior, the original Dior Sauvage. Say whatever you want, I absolutely love Sauvage. I've said this countless times in my videos. I've loved it since the first day that I got my nose on it, and to this day remains one of my most favorite fragrances. And right now, Zenith Blue from French Avenue is the best clone that you can get of that original scent from Dior. It's bluish, it's spicy, it's woody with some ambery sweetness, with that ambroxan that you'll find in the original fragrance. This one feels slightly fresher in the opening, has a bit more citruses in the opening, maybe a hint more wearable, a hint more suitable for warm weather as well, but overall has pretty much the same advantages as you'll find with Dior Sauvage. It's crowd-pleasing, it's versatile, it's masculine, you can wear it for any type of occasion, has good quality, and it also has pretty good performance, pretty much on par with current formulations of Dior Sauvage. And so guys, in today's video I showed you 10 new clone fragrances that are worth looking into. I hope that you found today's video interesting. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me in the next one for your dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.